Fuck it, we ball.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to our annual year-end episode. I was going to try to say what number, like what year it was of specifically the year-end roundups as podcasts, and it's been at least several, but I don't remember. But either way, this is the one for 2025. My name is Aly. I'm joined, as always, except for when I'm not, by...
Hey, I'm Joe. I'm the other one.
Well, when Joe's the first one, then I'm the other one. So it's really about equality here. We don't put favorites, except that's what we're about to do, kind of, by talking about some of our favorite music from 2025. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to say it felt like a slow year in any way. Mm-hmm. It just felt like there wasn't a lot of music that really blew me away and reminded me why. Not just like I love music so much and why we just that initial passion and just enjoyment of music as an art form that prompted us to start the podcast, then specifically local music. And just over the years, there have been a lot of bands and albums or releases, I guess I'll say, to be more nebulous, that have really been inspiring, encouraging, and just fantastic. Outright enjoyable sometimes, but also sometimes enjoyability isn't the metric we want to use to gauge a record, since sometimes they aren't really enjoyable to listen to, even if they're like it's fantastic art. So leaving that all the way open. But despite that kind of absence, and I put more of that on myself and as an individual than on like a lack necessarily of music that was being released, because plenty of music still came out this year.
There's a lot of cool music that came out this year, but I don't know. This year there wasn't a lot of releases this year that I felt were really kind of these tent poles of like even our kind of current class of local music. Yeah,
at least the folks that have been. I mean, there's not to just immediately stratify thing into classes. We're not trying to establish a caste system for the local music scene, unless you guys want that. I guess we can spearhead that if that's like in the works.
I should say era class, more like it's kind of like the graduating class of, as opposed to
and kind of across genres and sounds. There was kind of not a ton of those bands releasing music, or if they did, it was shorter releases. Yeah. Sometimes the members were just playing in other projects that also put out music. And there definitely felt like there were a lot of debut releases this year. Some that may have been in the works for some time, some that were just from random teenagers that some of my Gen Z friends told me to listen to. And that was all pretty cool. So there's clearly an abundance of people making new music. It's just that I didn't listen to a lot of it.
That's also true. It's been the most burned out I've felt as a creator.
As a creator, as an editor, as a journalists, as much as we can call ourselves that. I mean, we are, but it feels a little self-important to label oneself in such a term. And when journalism is kind of on the outs. We're really here to announce that we're pivoting to vlogging. We're going to just break into bands' practice spaces and say, where's the money? Where are the children? Where's the money, guys? And then CNN will have us on. Without any further ado, we did manage to collect a handful of releases that are definitely, at the very least, worth mentioning, that were enjoyable, were challenging, were still exciting on their own small way. Not everything has to be a total gobsmacker according to either of our personal tastes. Yeah. And that's not something to hold against.
There's definitely records that I'm going to talk about that I really liked this year. Yeah. And really kind of, I think, will hold up. I was looking at some of the big releases from 2024, and I think they had a really good year beforehand.
And also, before accumulating and assembling our personal list and my personal list, I scrolled through the the annual Pick to Click ballots, because whatever usually wins Pick to Click, I usually don't care about. And that's kind of an indictment on a lot of the just boring taste of a lot of the music community that isn't like younger people or that just aren't willing to put themselves out there. And yet there was a lot of music that I either didn't realize that the record had come out or was just new to me, especially in more like, not, I don't say like genre, because that's such a nebulous term to use that word again. And the adherence to that is not really reflected in a lot of these works that we are going to talk about. But like, there were a good amount of records that like, oh, here's a handful of cool country records that came out this year that I glossed over or missed, or here's a handful of jazz records. And they're a little bit more like in their smaller, their sub communities, and due to not being tapped into that throughout the year, these were all refreshing new finds, essentially, at this late stage of it literally being next year. And so this is by no means meant to be comprehensive. This isn't even all the music we've covered this year in any format, whether it was live sessions, interviews on the podcast, or the few times we dabbled in our newsletter. And all three of those things will be continuing as long as I guess we want to, because we decide, not you. We are not beholden to you, audience. We don't know you shit. Just kidding. I already said without further ado and then went on another tangent, but we might edit this out. Either way, we have a handful of releases each that we wanted to spend a little bit more time spotlighting as we do every year. Joe, do you want to take us away?
Yeah, I'm going to start off with probably one of my favorite records, probably my favorite record of the year locally, and one of the coolest live sessions we did, which was Spiritual Anguish by the band Eudaimon, which probably people who listen to this podcast know who this band is. They're in the world of Miri bands, since she is in so many.
Miri and Ella bands.
No, that's true. I shouldn't leave Ella out. Miri and Ella bands. But they're a great black metal band here, put out their, I think, what they're kind of considering their debut a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely a debut record. I think there's been like, they had like a demo out before, and they've been playing live for some time. But this was the first like substantial release, I feel like.
Yeah, and one that really kind of, I think, blends a lot of what the universe of Miri and Ella bands are together into one, because it's not just like a straight ahead black metal record.
You know, it's so recorded better than that at the very least. It doesn't sound like it was shit out by a potato that has a microphone built in.
Doesn't sound not quite as cold winter forest as you were hoping for.
Yeah, Varg would hate it, but also good.
Yeah, I was like, fuck them. But it's this great mix of black metal and other kind of heavy music elements. It's got its closer is probably one of my favorites, which is In Murs. It's 12 minutes long. Watching them perform that in this old Lutheran church in St. Paul was transcendent, to say the least. And you should go check it out. It's got everything from like short kind of burst of extreme music,
more intense, for sure,
which with Possession Audition out to, you know, these big epics.
And everywhere and kind of in between. It's kind of everything you'd want from a debut, as far as just covering the band's range, while also displaying the individual range of the writers and band members, as Joe was kind of talking about. The only reason I didn't have this on my list, because clearly we both love this record and these are friends of ours, is because I literally helped do the press for it. So kind of just pretend like I didn't say anything, but this record's really good and you should definitely listen to it.
Absolutely. What's your first one?
I'll keep it metallic, I guess. The first record that I wanted to talk about is A Body is a Suggestion by Melpomene. They describe themselves as an emotional post-death band. This is I don't know if this, I actually don't think this is their first record. No, they've put out records for a little while, but this is the first one in a while, in some time. And despite the kind of breadth implied by the label and just the willingness to experiment that a lot of the better metal bands have been prone to doing versus being pigeonholed in one respective like subgenre. It's like, oh, we're a death metal band. We can only make stuff that clearly sounds like death metal or black metal or whatever the hell.
I like it when a metal band doesn't just makes the same record for 10 years.
You know, and I will pay $30 for it every time. Mm-hmm. I have good taste. I am good music. That is fully a joke. But the record came out in August. It's a really like psychedelic, experimental record without feeling like kind of like the gratingness of experimental music. The confrontation and the conflict is sort of the point, if not the entire point. And I'll talk a little bit more about that with some of the, or at least one of the other releases I'm going to be mentioning. But it's just a beautiful, strange, ultimately like it's still really enjoyable as much as music that is like intentionally challenging and is not. It's addressing and inspired by just real. I don't want to say struggles, but just like especially as trans people, just you can kind of guess from the title, it's the immutability that we are forced to think that we are contained by, just as people, not even just as trans people, but you know, it's specifically relatable for those of us. Mm-hmm. But so it has a very personal an emotional tenor to it that at the very least spoke to me and was one of the many things I liked about it. I think they're a duo, if I remember from when I saw them live at last year's, the earlier 2025 Queer Ritual, since there were two of those. And they're definitely a band that, I'd recommend checking out live. If you can, I don't know when the next show is, but in the meantime, we have a great record that is showing that another example that Minneapolis metal bands are still staying restless, curious, and willing to just kind of do whatever the fuck they want. Yeah. And, you know, have confidence in their experimentation. Mm-hmm. And I think it shows itself. And I really enjoy this record a lot. You should check it out on Bandcamp because that's where you can buy it, but also I think it's probably on the other stuff too. What's your next release, Joe?
Yeah, mine is the newest record from the band In Lieu, which is Hooligan. First record out on
Who? Hooligan?
I was trying to work in an owl joke and I just couldn't make it land. I'm also kind of near nonverbal off of the pen.
Yeah, you know, I love going nonverbal before recording an audio podcast where all we're doing is talk.
I went, oh no, it's okay. No. It's my current New Year tradition. Unfortunately, first podcast of the year. Going, oh fuck. Anyway, Hooligan. It's the first record that In Lieu is doing on Learning Curve Records, which is a fantastic local, noisy kind of punk metal label. Anything on there, I'm always in love with.
At the very least, it merits checking out. It's always, we're doing consistently good stuff, and this feels like a very excellent match of band and record label, as much as there can be one in our relatively small local label scene. Yeah.
This is, I think, the first In Lieu record where I feel like the band is truly kind of firing on all cylinders. This is, I think, a fully realized In Lieu release where seeing the band live and then on record, listening to them kind of inch closer and closer and closer to the sound on Hooligan. This is what I think they've always wanted to be, and they finally took kind of the chance to do it, kind of moving away from like grungier punk rock to kind of this full like noise rock, Metz-ish, Melvins-y kind of music. Every song is just a pure burst of energy. It's by the, excuse me. Every song is like a pure burst of energy. It's all kind of self-contained, like track by track, while feeling pretty cohesive. And it's one you could put on, and by the time you're to work, it's already done, and you could listen to it again if you really wanted to.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you can time your commute by like a record. It's like it takes one hooligan to get from here to my workplace, and especially if you're not excited to go into your shit ass workplace, this is a record that can satisfy some of that catharsis. It also just fucking rips.
It does.
Shout out.
Yeah. What's your next pick?
My next pick is kind of cheating because it's 12 hours long, and I certainly have not listened to all of it in one sitting. I don't know, that wasn't really the intention from the artists, but it is a very dense, experimentational, just noise, drone, musique concrète, like live collage, almost not quite field recording because that implies that they were recorded ahead of time. Mm-hmm. This is all almost entirely live sounds, if not entirely. Before I bury the lead too fucking bad, the release is Silently by the group Nymphs, all caps. It's a rotating supergroup. It's the debut project by the group, and it's a supergroup if you're really into local like noise and like just abrasion and experimentation on the very abstract and long form side of things. It was started by Evelyn Rivers, who makes music as Somewhere Nice Someday, and this particular 12-hour performance features two other consistent members of the local noise community, for lack of a better way of putting it. Yvonne Bordowitz and Astrid Hubbard Flynn. Also, a brief shout out to Astrid's split collab tape put out earlier or early in the fall, or at some point in the fall. I don't fucking remember. But this is clearly a very talented group of people on their own, and putting them all in a basement and turning the mics on and not turning them off until it's like either nighttime or tomorrow, or is something that really can't be compared with anything else as far as like the possible experience of like a 12-hour listening or a 12-hour long release, since that's usually something that would be experienced live at something like Drone Not Drones, or more like long form performance art. But this is a record that really runs the gamut of just what sound can be and what quote unquote music can be. I like to joke with a lot of these noise bands and even my own art that we don't really have songs. They're technically songs in that like there's an order of things, but they're not really songs in like the traditional sense. It's like verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It's like in this case, there are 6 movements, and all of them except for one are 2 hours long. I've still only barely scratched the surface of listening to this release, having spent a good amount of time with it earlier this year, but it's something that is worth just dabbling in and just to kind of see if it's for you almost, because it's extremely for me. I love this shit. It's a really, really cool release on top of the politics and kind of the emotional core of it, which is very inspired by anti-fascist activism and specifically raising money for a family in Gaza and Palestine that just standing alongside and making that belief very explicit. And while that in and of itself is not worth saluting, it's just paying lip service, clearly this group pours all of that energy into the performance, into the recording. And Free Palestine, Death to America. You should buy this album. It's, again, all the funds, all the proceeds that Bandcamp doesn't fucking take will go to direct mutual aid for a family. If not, I don't know if it's expanded, but at the very least to one group of people in Gaza that, to say the least, need the money more than we do in a lot of regards. That was a very lighthearted at the end of this. It's only on Bandcamp as far as I know, but I definitely recommend at least checking it out if any of this sounds interesting. But also, it being interesting isn't really the point. It is out there, it was made, and making the art is the point a lot of the time. And I think this group proves that on one level of what they are hoping to do and what they're achieving. That is enough rambling about that. If I go any longer, I'll basically just talk over an entire movement of this damn thing. Joe, what's your next pick?
Yeah, the band Mouthful released their debut EP, I Am Trying to Be a Pool, and then released a follow-up single a little later in 2025, Yellow, and I Love You Forever. Mouthful is a great local indie folk rock band. I really love the lyricism on these songs, very kind of vivid and visual in a way that you can almost put yourself there a little bit. I kind of love the folk and the country scene and kind of that stuff that's been churning slowly under the surface when it comes to
even
like,
if the alt rock and like the kind of more generic descended from it kind of sounds like the Mats. Oh, holy shit, we gotta play this on the Current. Like, just because that's what's rising to the surface is no indicator that there's a lack of subjectively more interesting, but at least other music and other songwriters that are exploring different forms in there, and Mouthful is one of them. Yeah,
and I really love this EP and these singles, so you should go check them out.
I will also keep this one a little short, not just to keep that same energy, to quote Tiana Taylor. I don't actually know if she came up with that. That's just one of her albums. It's really good. She's not a local artist, but shout out. This is kind of another one that I'm kind of cheating. I'm just picking an entire record label, basically. Just specifically this year, the releases that Bumpy, Adam Wishwerven, aka Larry Wish's record label, have put out. Because it feels like this is, especially more lately, though it is not a new thing, the non-Larry Wish records and music that were put out this year was some of the best music that I did hear this year. And instead of trying to go into all of it and going in depth, just pull up the Bandcamp page, and there's a lot of really cool music, regardless of what you're into. There's the May and the Ladies EP that came out fairly recently. It's like dance pop and very electronic. There's, I mentioned it earlier, Astrid, Hubbard Flynn, and Eros Evie's collaborative noise tape. Very lovely, especially if you're already into that and you're enjoying the Nymphs release. Egg Girl finally got their record put out, even though that band is no more. Great ass band. I'm glad we got a record and we got to hear it. And lastly, I want to shout out Guitar Band. It's what it fucking sounds like. It's a band that's all guitars. And yeah, there's I think 7 or 8. Well, there's drums. I'm talking about my ass. It's almost entirely guitars. And seeing even clips of them performing live is almost hilarious, just because you have no choice but to say, damn, that's a lot of guitars. It's called Guitar Band. What did I expect? All of these bands and artists sound completely different. And even Adam's own music, whether a reissue or archival or something completely new, sounds completely unique. Not just across the label's discography, but even compared to a lot of the other music that we heard this year or any year. And I just can't recommend spending some time with at least the 2025 catalog of Bumpy's releases, if not just digging even deeper, going back. Since it's kind of rare for a more like pan-genre label to exist for more than a short period of time, since a lot of like tape labels kind of come and go. So you'll almost definitely find something that'll challenge or excite you across the label's discography.
Titillate, if you will.
I mean, if you're like horny for music, I guess, but like, don't tell me about that. I don't want to know about that. Like, you do what you do, you boo boo, but I don't want to hear that shit. Anyways, thanks, Joe. What's your next release that you were titillated by? You did this yourself.
I know I did. I totally did. So the next record I want to talk about is the album Save Room by the band Critter Thing. The album itself is an album about, trans joy, perseverance, and remembrance. And it's kind of a record that I feel really hits well, especially with the year that it's been for trans folks, unfortunately, as the world just gets worse. Anyway, the album itself is a concept record kind of based around the idea of a PlayStation 2 survival horror game. The title track kind of feels like the intro music. A little later, they kind of reprise it in the album before kind of the final bits of the record's closing section. It's just a really beautifully crafted record that flows really well and really hits a lot of these kind of perfect emotional moments as you have C's songwriting and the instrumentals that really kind of push kind of where it sits genre-wise around a little bit. It's kind of a little indie rock. It gets harder. They kind of really play with kind of the full sound that Critter Thing has throughout
Just
it.
a lot of different like rock and like rock quartet.
Yeah.
But they're kind of pushing past that box that exists if you wanted to, which you shouldn't.
But anyway, it's a great record, and it's one that you should definitely go listen to.
You're kind of giving all the like compulsively listenable or like running the record back frequently. At least I'm kind of covering the even if I'm not talking about a whole fucking label's like year of releases. I'm finally going to talk about something that I have listened to multiple times in a row and felt, if only better, just in general. That is the debut EP by the duo Sunpearl Banag, and it's an improvised vocal and piano primarily creation that was recorded kind of on a whim during a recording session for something different. And they just said, hey, we're here. Can you just let us record a little bit of something during the lunch break? And that is where this EP began. The duo of Isabel and Toby really gel as musical co-conspirators, even without any real preparation or conceptualization. A lot of that was revealed in hindsight after the music had already been recorded, and once they begin to assemble. And since there's technically one cut, it's not 19 minutes thorough, like that was unbroken. There is one cut, and I didn't even notice until they told me about it because it just flows so well. It's a really soothing, short, beautiful ambient release, as much as one can again place genre labels where we don't want them. And it's a great record to throw on when you're waking up. The term Banag literally means It literally means a faint light, the first rays of dawn. It evokes that very literally. Even if I didn't know even if you don't know the meaning of the title, it evokes that with its musicality, and I really loved it. they're both really cool folks, and at least Toby's in like 5 other fucking bands or something. So keep your eyes out for more. I'm hoping for more, especially in this coming year. And by that, I mean the year that we're recording this in, because it doesn't feel real yet. Shout out January 6th, funniest day in recent history. And on that note, what's your last release, Joe?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Waking Hours EP Blank Stare that came out. And they released another single after that as well. But as we've all kind of noticed, this like dream, the local scene here has definitely had, and probably the national kind of music, DIY music world, seen a big rise in kind of dream pop and shoegaze, and a lot of bands have been doing that. And I just really enjoyed this EP itself. It's not kind of one specific thing. I feel like it's the band fully kind of realizing their sound and kind of really falling together as songwriters as well compared to some of their earlier stuff. But a great kind of a great dream pop record, a great shoegaze record that kind of came out of the local scene, and love it.
Yeah. There's been more of those bands that aren't remarkable than there are bands playing with those kind of palettes that are remarkable. And this is still a band early on in their formation. I don't even think they have a record out. They've still just been doing EPs record. And singles.
Yeah.
So still, there's more to come, it seems, and I hope.
They're still in college, so...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, even at this early stage, it's cool to see a band that isn't just like, Beach House? Yeah, we love that. And it's just kind of boring. I don't care if you're nice people, the music's mid. My last release is probably the most out of the ordinary given my typical listening habits and my music taste. I want to shout out the band Peeler. They put out an EP called Best Kept Secret in May, and they released another single later in the year in the fall. But it's pretty straightforward, like alt rock with some more like heavy textures, not quite going full shoegaze as in ways that some of the other bands that in the scene would, but still just playing with a lot of texture, a lot of noise, a lot of pedals. Or if it's not a lot of pedals, they make it sound like it. So good on you. But it's certainly a little bit more archetypal for the music that seems to come up out of the Minneapolis scene, at least.
Yeah.
As far as like what the music scene is known for, we're just kind of been stuck in this time loop almost of just rehashing stuff that sounds like the 80s and 90s and kind of ignoring everything else. And there are gatekeepers that are partially responsible for that. So shout out. Just kidding. But this is a band that another early release. It's their first EP, some of their first songs, and it just comes out of the gate really strong. And definitely a band I want to catch live now, since I think both of us have been lacking in our show attendance just due to schedules and wanting to go to bed and just age, if anything. But yeah, it's a really exciting new group. One of the better like alt rock or guitar rock, as ambiguous of a term as I can possibly think of, that's come out this year. And I'm very excited to see what they do next. Do you want to give your shout outs, Joe?
Yeah.
This is our kind of little final. Sorry, I got a hiccup. That covers most of the music we wanted to talk about today. We have some more shout outs just because there's more beautiful music that came out this year than we have time to talk about, even with our grumpy old asses feeling our age a little bit more. So it's a little bit of a speed round. there's so much more music than what we could have covered and what we even wanted to talk about today. Some of that would be music and bands that we were lucky enough to have in the basement for a live session, some yet to come out, or even just bands that have been on the podcast that we've had the joy of talking to. Check that out as well. Just not even, listen to the episodes, watch the live sessions, but like at the very least, just like check out the bands, because the bands are all pretty cool. That's why we had them in our house.
Typically.
We usually don't. There's been a couple times.
Where we're like, y'all were not cool, but
yeah, and it's even funnier when they're the ones who asked to do this. We're doing you a favor, you fuckers.
Subscribe to the highest tier of our Patreon, and we'll tell you who.
Yeah. You'll finally get the shit talk episode that we've been threatening to release for like 4 or 5 years, where we just get like some of our friends who've been in the music scene here for too damn long as well, and just ripping into some pieces, some bullshit, because amidst all of the good stuff, there's always going to be some bullshit. But we're going to spend the last couple of minutes, more than a couple, last little bit of the episode talking about some of that good music. And definitely please listen to all of the groups that we have talked about. A lot of them will have new music coming, I'm sure, since a lot of them are already actively working on maybe more new songs, if not a full record. Or just, again, other projects, since we are a city where people love to be in like 4 bands. And sometimes that's stressful if you're trying to schedule something with one of those people, but ultimately it's really cool because a lot of music is to come out. Joe, do you want to fly through your shout outs before I talk everyone to death, even though they probably stopped listening because my voice sounds like this?
Yeah, I'll jump into my list then. First, I wanted to talk about the EP, the debut EP from the band Bunny Blood. Was It Me? This is potentially. Anyway, Jesus, my brain, dude, I'm so high. That's why I can't make any jokes, because my brain, I can't process it.
That's on me. I apologize.
No, you're good. It's just like there's a bit. It's like, there's a bit there, but you can't get to it because you're like, I gotta remember how to speak English. Anyway, Bunny Blood, Was It Me? Kind of from Hallie, who is in Wanna Bianca, a band we loved that had broken up. It's her New Doom project with Josh and Jared. Super cool shit. Doom metal and new metal mixed together. Fantastic. Moving on, the Blue Driver EPs. Blue Driver is a band we've dug. They finally released music, and they put out 2 EPs this year.
Like we heard about these fuckers in like 2019, and we're finally getting some recorded music, and bless the Lord for it.
Second band we ever had in the basement for a live session. They put out Music Is Dead and Blue Driver Killed It, and again out this year. A lot, classic kind of Blue Driver songs and new stuff mixed together. I also wanted to shout out the Ice Climber self-titled record. Ice Climber is a great local band, and it's cool that they have a music out finally. She's Green put out Chrysalis this year. If we're going to talk about Minneapolis shoegaze right now. Full Catholic had put out a great record called Things Go Quiet, psychedelic like folk rock. It's an album that you're just kind of like, I don't know fully how I'm feeling while listening to this,
but I'm intrigued.
Exactly. Josiah Shipp released the new music in a while this year, and I wanted to mention he put out an album as well, but I wanted to talk about the cool EP specifically. If you loved Breathe and Repeat, you'll love this EP. Check
out Breathe and Repeat, because that's at this point that's kind of a real Head Snow kind of
exactly
name drop. But Josiah's new stuff is great.
It is. 2 more shout outs then from me here as I'm speed rounding this for no fucking reason.
I mean, there's some fucking reason. It's because we've already been yapping for a while.
The self-titled from Gully Boys. We always love when Gully Boys puts out music.
It's a great sophomore record.
And then 26 Bats has kind of come back with some singles. And the one TV Head, which was also part of a drag puppet show that Bailey and crew put together at the Southern Theater, which was a fantastic watch. So it's all my shout outs. I can now finally catch a breath because I also just wasn't breathing while speed rounding this. Aly, who do you want to shout out?
I want to let the record show that I did not tell Joe to stop breathing. I just said, let's run through it. The breathing part was implicit, so I'm glad you survived.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also kind of go quick because if I don't, I'll just keep talking out of fear. First and foremost, get it out of the way, not because it is... I'm going to start that over. Firstly, I want to shout out Anita for my first shout out, want to mention Anita Velveeta's record, Liquid Gold. Mm-hmm. She's been, if not the queen of podcast guests, and just one of our longtime favorites across everything she's done. The only reason I didn't talk more about this album, because it was probably my favorite local album of the year, is just because we've covered Anita a lot. And you probably already heard the record, and thank God for it, because it's fucking incredible. I want to shout out Zora's second record, Belladonna. Great experimental rap, pop, electronic, dance, all over the place. Very brash and funny, and also tender. Nona Envy's record, Self-Soothing, was really cool. Bejalvin, I don't know if I'm saying that right, is not for everybody, I've learned, but I enjoyed their very weird and wonderful record, or EP, I think, Bejubstep 3. I just wanted to say Bejubstep on record because I don't know if anyone said that on record before, except for maybe the band themselves.
Yeah.
This is another kind of cheating answer, but Dream Colors, the project of Reese Finnegan from Malamiko, among other things, put out a really cool debut record called Circles of the Sun. I didn't talk more about this, even though I really love the record, because I'm sort of in that band, at least for performing live, and that would be a conflict of interest. And we fucking love Integrity here. Mm-hmm. Like, I would marry Integrity if I had a choice. If Integrity was a woman. Shout out Integrity, and also Dream Colors. And lastly, little split that I really enjoyed. The band Ampule, I think is how you say it. And then Linus, the shoegaze one, not the pop punk one. I just don't like pop punk that much, so I clearly have a favorite Linus. Pick your side. Linus's EP from last year was really cool, but it was nice to see a little split, and I also just love splits. Because it brings two different bands with shared elements, shared sounds, shared curiosities into a more contained release. And it helps them just, like, it's a way to put songs out without having to build up a whole EP or a whole record, since that just takes a little bit more time. Mm-hmm. But really cool guitar rock, guitar music, guitar. I'm going to cut this out, but guitar. Definitely check that out. It's called Decay Chain, which, if you know anything about like DAWs and pedals and effects and stuff, it kind of sounds like that. And I mean that fully complimentarily. We'll leave you at that, since if you made it this far, either you're doing this to yourself because you're like one of our friends or something, or you're just really curious about local music. Hopefully both. Well, at least the latter. The latter one's more important. Once again, check out all these releases. Check out all these artists. Go through like their related artists on their Bandcamp or their Apple Music, because hopefully you've gotten rid of Spotify at the very least. Not that Apple Music or any other streaming service is that much better. It's a lesser evil in a lot of ways, if not every way. But as far as a medium for providing access to really great local music, it is out there, and it would be foolish not to take advantage of it. But if you like any of these bands, if you connect with any of these releases, support the bands either just by buying the music, going to a show, getting merch, all of the ways that are actually tangibly supporting our music community here in their own small ways. Every little bit helps. And if you say that the Hold Steady's your favorite local band, go fuck yourself. That's not true. They're not from here.
No.
Shut up.
Craig just
also they're not an up and coming local band. You head ass motherfucker. I don't care if they're a good band. I like the Hold Steady. They are not an up and coming local band. They're like 11 albums deep. Who are you? Sorry. Anyways.
That's why I love Husker Du as my favorite local band.
Yeah, if you're also putting the Mats or Husker Du as your favorite local band, go fuck yourself. Those aren't bands anymore. Some of them are dead. You can't have that. Listen to real music.
I would say you can have it as your favorite band, but anytime someone asks you what your favorite local band is, and you go, "Yeah, The Replacements," and you're like,
well, not even favorite, but like favorite up and coming
current band,
currently active local band.
You're just like, ooh.
Either you're lying to yourself, you're old and washed, and you can't be bothered to listen to anything unique or new to you because you work for the Current or something, and you're too busy sucking off the mainstream.
I was watching.
Anyways,
speaking of one more tangent before we're done. No, this doesn't have to be on a fucking podcast. Thanks for listening. We're gonna make more fucking content in 2026 until we burn out and decide this isn't fun anymore.
You know, we accomplished my only goal for Ear Coffee, which was to outlive Henry Kissinger.
We did do that.
And we did do that. Thanks for listening. Bye.
You have been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share so you can stand out against the sea of other music podcasts. You can find information and other important links in the show notes of this episode. If you would like to support us, please consider subscribing on Patreon for early access to live sessions and other bonus content. You can also subscribe to our Substack for a regular newsletter with reviews, ramblings, and anything else we have to say. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.